All right, let's talk about stress. Today, we're going to build a really practical guide for not just managing it, but for building a stronger, more resilient mind. So, does this ever happen to you? It feels like your brain has, I don't know, 100 tabs open at once. Yeah, you are definitely not alone. Over the next few minutes, we're going to break down exactly why that happens, and more importantly, what you can actually do about it.
Okay, so first things first, we have to understand what we're actually up against. Let's call it the teen stress overload. Seriously, knowing what you're facing is always the first step to getting back in the driver's seat.
I mean, life right now is just a constant balancing act, isn't it? You've got school pressure, social stuff, and that fear of missing out, what your family expects, worrying about the future, and all of that is happening while you're scrolling through social media. When you see it all laid out like this, it's no wonder things can feel totally overwhelming. And here's the thing about stress. It's not just a feeling in your head, right? It shows up everywhere, physically, emotionally, and even in how you act. Take Jasmine, for example. She was juggling exams and work, started feeling super isolated, and then bam, headaches and stomach aches. Her body was basically sending out alarm bells. Recognizing those signals in yourself, that is an absolutely crucial first step. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the problem. Now let's get to the good stuff, the solution. It's about unlocking this kind of superpower that your mind already has. We're going to dive into mindfulness. It sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? But trust me, mindfulness is a skill you can build. It's basically like hitting the pause button on all that mental chatter. You're just noticing what's happening in this very moment without slapping a good or bad label on it. It's all about observing, not just immediately reacting. And this isn't just some, feel-good, fluffy idea. This is backed by actual science. There's this incredible process called neuroplasticity, which means mindfulness can literally rewire your brain. When you practice it consistently, it actually helps shrink your amygdala. That's kind of like your brain's internal alarm system. So you become less reactive to stress. You are physically building a calmer brain from the inside out. How cool is that? And this right here, this is the real game changer. Think about it. Reacting is that knee-jerk automatic thing where your emotions just take over. Responding, though, that's mindful. You create a tiny bit of space, a pause, so you can make a thoughtful choice. This is the difference between stress controlling you and you controlling your response. All right, so we've covered the what and the why. Now it's time for the how. Let's get into some super practical tools you can use the second you feel that stress starting to creep in. Okay, let's get really practical here. I want you to imagine that feeling. You know the one. Anxiety starts kicking in, your chest feels tight, your mind is just racing a million miles an hour. What can you do in that exact moment? Okay, here's one of the most effective tools out there. It's called the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding technique. All it does is pull your attention away from those racing thoughts and puts it right back into your immediate surroundings, using your five senses. It basically forces your brain to focus on the here and now, which is an amazing way to stop a worry spiral in its tracks. Here's another great one, the 4-7-8 breathing exercise. Think of this as a biological reset button for your entire nervous system. The real secret is that long exhale on the 8 count. That's what tells your body, hey, it's okay, you can relax. You can do this before a big test, in the middle of a tough conversation, really anytime you need to find your calm in under a minute. Now, these tools work best when you actually know what you're dealing with, It all starts with awareness. Let's talk about Tyler. He just thought he was irritated all the time. But when he actually stopped and thought about it, he had this aha moment. It wasn't irritation, it was anxiety about his math class. Just naming that feeling gave him the power to use a tool, like the breathing exercise, instead of just lashing out. So these tools for in-the-moment stress are fantastic, right? But what about the long game? How do we build that kind of deep mental strength so we're just less shaken by stress in the first place? Well, that's what we're talking about next. It's about becoming unshakable. The big idea here is resilience. And I really want you to hear this. Resilience is not something you're either born with or you're not. It's a skill. It's a muscle. And just like any other muscle, it gets stronger every single time you use it. Every time you face a challenge, learn from it, and just keep going. So what does flexing that resilience muscle actually look like in real life? Well, for starters, it means actually looking at difficulties, not pretending they aren't there. It's about seeing a setback as a temporary thing, not a life sentence. It's learning from your mistakes instead of letting them become your whole identity. It's all about focusing on what you can control. And this last one is so important. Knowing that asking for help is not a weakness. In fact, it's one of the strongest moves you can possibly make.
Maya's story is the perfect example of this. She didn't make the soccer team, and that's a huge disappointment, right? She totally could have just quit, but she didn't. Instead, she let herself feel it, and then she used it as fuel. She practiced harder and came back the next year as a team leader. See? That failure wasn't the end. It became the foundation for her success. That right there is resilience in action.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. The reality of stress, the tools you can use, and this big goal of building resilience. It all comes down to this. I want you to think of your mind like a garden. It needs regular care, right? You've got to pull out the weeds, those negative thoughts, and intentionally plant some good stuff. So my question for you is, what's one small thing you're going to do today to tend to your mind's garden? Maybe it's 1 minute of that 4-7-8 breathing. Maybe it's just thinking of one thing you're grateful for. Whatever it is, that single, small step, that's where this whole journey really begins.